So you've got a story, you've got a great character, you've got cool settings, you've got plot twists galore. But do you know why you're telling the story to begin with? I'm Wusisiwe Tindili. I'm a showrunner. I've been a writer, director, producer for the past 25 plus years, working in film and television in South Africa and abroad. Why are you telling the story? And I think that's what separates ordinary writers from auteurs, is people who have a point of view. So let's take some storytellers, some writers who've created, really iconic sort of films. You look at Christopher Nolan. Almost all of his films, whether the genre is different, the setting is different, they almost all deal with the same why, with the same theme. Memento, a man wakes up, has lost his memory, and has to retrace his steps to figure out what the heck has happened and how he got in that situation. Prestige, two magicians who are bitter enemies, do all kinds of tricks and magic to outdo each other. Inception, a guy is hired by big, greedy corporations to spy on their competitors, and he does that by entering the competitors' dreams and finding secrets. But in the process of that, discovers there's a tragedy about his own life that he discovers, and then tries to use his dreams to try to change that tragedy. All three of those movies, at the basis of them, are dealing with the idea that reality is not real, that our perception of reality is flawed from the start. And it's flawed, why? Because we apply our own unreliable lens to how we see reality. So if you had to strip that down even further to a more basic sort of theme about life, what is he saying about life? He's saying that reality isn't what it seems. Why? Because our lens is foggy. Why is our lens foggy? Because we are all unreliable narrators in our own life. So if you had to also strip that down even further, basically, whether it's that crook in Inception, the rival magicians, the guy who's lost his memory, he's saying humans lie. That's what he's saying. Because all of those characters in those stories lie to create different perceptions of reality for themselves and for those around them. So he's saying humans lie to themselves and humans lie to other people in order to survive. That would be sort of rudimentary thing. And of course, he paints it in a very sophisticated way in each of his stories. But that's basically his sort of like viewpoint of the world, at least how he presents it in his stories, is that human beings, we all lie. We lie to each other and we lie to ourselves just to get by, to survive, out of greed, out of love, out of whatever motivation. But that because we lie, we create an unreliable reality for ourselves. We become our own unreliable narrators in our own lives. That's an interesting point of view, and some might say it's a very pessimistic point of view. It is, but it's a very interesting point of view to approach storytelling through. I could even say, even in Interstellar, he is exploring that theme of reality being false and sort of the lies, whether conscious or unconscious, that we tell ourselves in order to be able to deal with being alive and being human. You take other great filmmakers who've made like sort of a series of films or TV shows. Let's go to TV and look at a recent hit, Paradise, which I loved Paradise and a lot of audiences loved it. Sci-fi, set in the future, post-apocalyptic world, and yet audiences could totally see the auteurness of Dan Fogelman, who's the creator, showrunner, writer of the Paradise, to This Is Us, a show he did at the beginning of his career, earlier in his career, that was the complete opposite of Paradise in terms of genre, setting, style, tone, everything. That was very much a family sort of melodrama. They couldn't be more different. But what audiences picked up is the thematic theme that's running through both of those stories, which is in both of those worlds, no matter what's happening, love is the bond. Love is the bond that ties people together. The core driving force of each of the main characters in both of those stories is love. This man in paradise will go through hell and back just to find his wife, who he lost after the apocalypse. And this is us, these parents will go through hell and back for the love of their children. And then the siblings themselves for the love of each other, no matter how much they fight. But what he's saying is life is tough, but love is the answer. Love is the driving force that keeps us alive as human beings. And it's a beautiful sentiment, and it's a beautiful sentiment to see in an apocalyptic story as well, which is usually very grim. Two different auteurs, two different storytellers and writers, one with a more pessimistic sort of life view, one with a more optimistic life view, but they are clear about what they're trying to say about the world, what they're trying to say about life and existence and relationships and human beings and how we interact with each other and nature, and it shows up time and time again in their stories. So can your sort of themes change from story to story as a writer? Absolutely. But what you start to see, and I think a lot of writers, as they progress in their careers, will start to see this kind of voice starts to develop naturally. It's not even like something that you prescribe ahead of time, but your natural inclinations as a human being, because before you're a writer, you're a human being. Your natural way that you move through the world, the way that you observe how human beings move through the world and interact with each other, is going to inform the kind of stories you tell and why you're telling those stories. And so I always encourage writers to spend a lot more time, thinking about the why. When you come up with a great idea and you think, oh, this would be cool if I did a story like this, just pause for a second and be like, why do I want to tell this story? Like, why is the story important to me in the first place? And there's exercises that you could do to sort of start to break that down for yourself, which I can share in a future showrunner's note. But once you do that, the clarity of your writing will improve 1,000-fold, and you will start to see patterns emerging in your writing that will put you on the path to becoming an auteur.